Hello, Garland Nixon here, and there's a few odds and ends going on that I think we need to talk about regarding the U.S.'s ability to negotiate with Iran and what's happening in Ukraine. Let's talk. Hello, Garland here, and I guess I think I'm good as far as sound and all that kind of stuff. I had to make a little bit of change. Sometimes when you're on StreamYard, it's weird. There's a little bit of there's a little thing that shows your signal, and sometimes that shows a weak signal. It doesn't show weak, it doesn't show strong, so shows intermediate. So let's hope everything is going fine. All right, so let's talk. One of the things that's going on now that I find interesting is there's a little bit of a dance where Donald Trump is, of course, unhinged, as Donald Trump tends to be. These days, he's very much unhinged in that he's, 1 minute he's telling Iran, we're making a deal with you. We're going to get a deal. We're going to get you $30 billion. And things are going to work out well, and we're going to get sanctions relief. And all you got to do is agree to zero. What is it? You've got to agree to zero enrichment, and everything's just going to be all basically turn out wonderful. And apparently, Iran was like, no, we're not in a mood to negotiate with you right now, which of course makes sense because if we're honest about it, Uncle Sam's, I'm just going to use Uncle Sam for the U.S., has been really revealed as a double dealing crook. And maybe I can go in a little bit of different direction, because if you look at the history of the U.S., and as I can say, you can go all the way back to like deals that were made with the Native Americans, the U.S. government's never kept its deals. Ever, ever, ever. Over the course of time, it's always been, well, if we're stronger than you and you can't force us to make a deal, then we ain't going to do it. So if you can't force us to keep our word, we ain't going to do it. We'll sign a deal. It's kind of like a narcissist or, a sociopath, right? The easiest person in the world to make a deal with is a narcissist or a sociopath. You know why? They have no intention of keeping their word. So what does a narcissist do? Oh, I promise if you'll just forgive me this one time, I'll never do X again. It'll never happen again. Never do it again. It was wrong. I'm sorry. What a terrible, they're caught, right? They're completely caught. And they're always going to say this, I'll never do it again. I promise. Well, you can't do this. This is, oh no, I'll never, I promise. And you have to do this. I promise, promise, promise. Narcissists are the easiest people in the world to make a deal with. Why? Because they can make any deal in the world because they have no intentions of keeping their word. They're going to say what they have to say at the time to get the outcome they want at that time. Afterwards, be damned. You can come back to the narcissist tomorrow and say, but you promised yesterday that you wouldn't do this. And they'll just turn on you. No, I didn't. I don't remember saying that. Or maybe, oh, shut up. You're just stupid. You're getting on my nerve. Anything. They don't care what they say. They have no intention of keeping their word. And people who ended up, whether it's work or a relationship, family member, a significant other, whatever, people who deal with narcissists at some point realize, what am I making a deal with this person for? Any deal we make, they're going to say, yeah. They're going to say, let's make a deal. And you know what the narcissist will say? What do you want? Well, I want this, and all of the 10 things. So the narcissist will say, no problem, I'll sign off on it. Got them all. And you'll be like, really? Is that easy to make a deal? Narcissists will say, yeah, anything else you want. They have no intention of keeping their word. They can sign off on anything. And Iran has come to the reality that when dealing with Uncle Sam, he can always get a deal with Uncle Sam. Now, there's two things about the deal with Uncle Sam. Within the context of the deal, you have to acknowledge who's in charge. So if Uncle Sam, and this is just the Trump administration, but it don't make any difference. Okay, if they deal with Iran right now and they say, we're going to make a deal, right? It's going to be a quote deal that implicitly acknowledges the U.S. as the boss, For instance, rather than say, what do you want? What's your red lines? What are your red lines? What's the least you'll take? What's the most you'll take? That's the kind of deal going back and forth. It's going to be something like this. You can't ever do this. That's part of the deal. They're going to have a demand. And what they're going to say is, we're going to make a deal. But in that deal, I'm going to make a demand. And you got to take that as part of the deal. And if you don't take the deal, then I will somehow punish you, be it attacking or sanctions or whatever the case may be, right? So imagine me and you working on a deal. And you say, let's sit down and make a deal. Okay. And within the deal, I say, let's start here. Before this goes any further, you got to take this part of the deal. And you're like, well, I might not want to take that part of the deal. You got to take that part of the deal. And then you say, well, you know what? If this is not a win-win deal, I think I'm going to walk away. You can't walk away, because if you walk away, I'll kill you. I'll punish you. I'll blow you up. I'll attack you. I'll go to war with you. So we're going to make a deal, me and you. And in that deal, you're going to place demands. And I got to take those demands. And if I don't take that deal, then you're going to attack me, blow me up, punish me some other way, right? Well, that ain't a deal. That's armed robbery, right? You point a gun to someone. Hey, can you give me your wallet? What happens if I don't? I'll shoot you. Okay, here's the wallet. And then the robber walks away and says, I made a great deal for this wallet. That wasn't a deal. That was armed robbery. That was the use of coercion to force someone to acquiesce to your demands. That's all it is. What the U.S. is calling a deal is what they're calling, it's not even negotiations. What they're calling negotiations and a deal is coercion as a means to force someone to acquiesce to their demands. If you're using coercions, if you're using force, if you're using threats, if you're using demands, if all four of those things, are really any one of them, but let's just say in this particular instance, all four of them are present, you're not negotiating, and that's not a deal. Okay. In order to be able to use those things, you have to be one up on the person. The person has to start by acknowledging, for instance, if I say, give me that, and you say, but I don't want to give you that. And I say, well, if you don't, I'm going to beat the hell out of you. We both have to understand that I can beat you up. You have to look at me and say, well, I'm only a woman. I'm 4'10" and I weigh 85 pounds. And I've got, 2 broken legs, and, I'm not able to defend myself. So Garland can beat me up if he wants to. So we start off by me acknowledging that physically, if he wants, he can beat me up. So that's the way we got to start. But if you feel Garland can't beat me, I'll kick his ass. And I say, you better do this or I'll kick your ass. You might say, okay, dude, give it a shot. Let's see what happens. I feel like I can protect myself enough that you ain't going to be happy you fought me. So come on, let's see what happens. Let's see who walks away hurting, right? So this business of negotiations, when in fact it is the use of coercion to force your demands on someone else who you're both acknowledging is a lesser power, is now, what's the word I'm going to use? Out in the open. Iran doesn't even have to pretend anymore. They don't have to pretend, okay, we're negotiating, because it ain't a negotiation. So what is Iran saying? For starters, it ain't a negotiation. Number one. Number two, when I did humor you, shall we say, and pretend it was a negotiation and try to look for a way to get at least some kind of temporary resolution to this issue. As soon as I turn my back to look the other way, you hit me in the back of the head with a bat. You're like, look over here. We're negotiating. Yeah, can I trust you? Certainly, we're negotiating. All right. Hey, what's that over there? And you look over there, bat, right in the back of the head. I'm never turning my back on you again. And why would I sit down and negotiate when I know that to you, negotiation is just another tool of coercion? You want to negotiate with me so you can find out what I'm doing, so you can get more intelligence and data on me, so you can have more of a psyop and more of a propaganda in the world to show everybody how bad I am. You're using that as propaganda to go home and tell your people how terrible I am and why you got to go to war with me, right? So Iran is in a position, let's sum this up. Iran is in a position where they recognize the truth about Uncle Sam's Negotiations. They ain't negotiations. They're an attempted armed robbery. Okay. But Uncle Sam still has to pretend, particularly because it's trying to pretend like, interestingly enough, that they're the good guys in the world and we're doing things to make the world a better place and to protect the world and all that stuff, right? And particularly for the propaganda at home, that the US government still has to pretend. So they're like, hey, will you negotiate? And apparently Iran's latest answer was, nah, no thanks. Not interested in, we've seen the offer that you have. That ain't gonna go nowhere with us. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Hey, will you negotiate and you have to do zero enrichment? Yeah. Have a nice day. Now, there's an interesting dynamic now. Very, very interesting dynamic that is different, that is consequential. And that is, in the past, the issue of force and coercion had not been determined. Israel had, although it was weakening, a certain air of military power. Dare I say, to some people, an air of invincibility. Not to me, but to some people, probably to themselves and to the U.S. empire, right? The U.S. and Israel both had convinced themselves that Israel was a badass and nobody wanted to fool with Israel, and Israel could just go in and topple a government, attack a government, whatever. So they're faking all the time, figuring we're going to fake negotiation. As soon as we get Iran to turn their heads, Israel will come in and knock them out because Israel's powerful like that. So they executed their devious and diabolical plan. They fake negotiated, and Israel came in and punched Iran, and Iran took a punch and got themselves together, got up off the mat, knocked the hell out of Israel. Knocked the hell out of Israel. Enough that Israel had to kind of, sure, I believe that Iran was ready. Iran was taking some hits. So needless to say, they were losing some people. I think Iran wanted a ceasefire. I think my understanding, could be wrong, is that Israel's the one pushing for it the most, because Israel was taking hits like they've never taken before. And Israel is 78 times smaller. 78 times smaller. They got like one international airport, and Iran's got like 29 or 26. So they were taking the business end of it because they're so much smaller. It was so much easier to knock out their infrastructure, economic, military, et cetera, because they don't have as much, right? So Israel got a punch in the gut, a pretty good one. Now, I think that what happened after that seemed to me, we've got to look at what happened after that from the perspective of Israel. Israel now knows if you go after the conventionally, if you go after Iran, they're going to knock the hell out of you. And of course, we can assume, we could be wrong, but most of us assume that as a result of Iran's air defense inadequacies, which I think could have been predicted, but they had some air defense, but it could have been better if they had gotten help from Russia and or China. That they're strengthening their air defense, they're strengthening their shields, they're strengthening their abilities to fend off future attacks, so that the next time Israel comes after them, it's going to be tougher. I think that's going on. Interestingly enough, they're in Russia and China a lot. Here's my prediction. Take it for what it's worth. I think China is going to do everything they can to try to be the one to provide air defense for air defense systems for Iran. It makes sense to me strategically. Let me explain. One of the things that Iran would be able to look, Russia has proven their air defense, S-300, S-400. Everybody knows what it is. Nobody in the world says, oh boy, the Russian air defense don't work. Bukim 3, on and on and on. Everybody looks at the Russian air defense system and say they got the best. It's been clear. It's been proven on the battlefield. It's been proven in actual war that their stuff works, and it's really, really good. So everybody knows what Russians can do. Now, from one perspective, Iran would say, hey, yeah, that's great. I want that amount of stuff. Now, Russia is, in fact, engaged in a war against NATO. It's fending off attacks from NATO in Ukraine and potentially otherwise. So they certainly would want to husband a lot of their resources in particularly air defense. But, they make a lot, so they could get some to Iran. However, China has very, they're a highly technical country, and I'm sure their air defense is really, really good. And here's my point. Now, I don't know if you know it, China's got a bunch of S-400s too. Everybody wants that S-400. The Russian S-400 is one hell of an air defense system. So you want to have S-400, okay? But apparently China's got some, new stuff that they've come out with that's really good. And think about this. Why would China want to do that? Russia would want to husband their resources, but they want to help out Iran. But China, particularly, if I was China, I'd be saying to Russia, step aside. We got all of these things. Number one, they haven't been proven in battle, and they wanted to get them proven in battle. The United States is threatening them. So you got a couple of things. If you're China, you want Iran to have a lot of your air defense system, and you want your techs there looking all over it, right? You want to set it up. You want, if I'm China, I want to set up basically a Chinese air defense layered network to defend Iran. Think about this. Recently, that's what Pakistan had. Pakistan had the J-10C, which is an older Chinese jet, strong. They've got the latest upgraded package, but they had an older J-10C, and they had Chinese air defense systems. And when the Indian skirmish happened, those J-10Cs were very effective, and the Chinese air defense system was very effective, right? Very, very effective stuff. So it's been used in battle. If I'm China, the Americans want to attack me eventually, don't they? Don't I want to see my stuff against theirs so I can tweak it? Number one, don't if I'm China, don't I want to see how my stuff works, not only in a real battle, because the only one they've had, of course, was India, and it was very, very effective. But I want it against US stuff for sure. I want it against Western stuff for sure. That's what I want to see. I want to see my stuff against Western stuff for two reasons. I want to tweak it, see what needs to be changed. But number two, I want the West to see it. I want the US, because I don't really want to go to war with anybody, much less the US. And I want the US in the most likely event that they attack Iran again, I want the U.S. to come in and Israel attack Iran. And ideally, I want Iran to shoot every damn thing they got down. I want China, and I want everybody to say, well, the Iranians have a Chinese air defense system. Wonder how it's going to work out. And there's Western stuff and F-35s, and there's firing Western missiles at Iran. I wonder how the Chinese stuff is going to work out. And then if I'm China, I want it to blow everything out of the air. And then I want to say to the U.S., that'll be you next. I want to say to the U.S., don't you dare attack me. You saw what we did to Israel. And if you come in to Iran, of course, yesterday the U.S. comes in and the U.S. gets it too, right? And then the Chinese want to say, U.S., you see how those air defense systems work, don't you? You don't want none of that smoke, brother. You don't want none of that smoke. So don't attack us. Don't give us a hard time over Taiwan. Don't think you're going to come flying in and attacking us, because in the same way that we shot your stuff down in Iran, we're going to shoot your stuff down in our region. So that's why I'm saying my guess is that China is going to want to institute some of their electronic warfare, some of their air defense stuff, some of their really hard-hitting stuff. They want to see it in battle. Most people think that Israel, U.S. is going to eventually attack Iran again. And China, knowing that, wants their stuff in there so they can see it in battle, so they can see it in action, in real action. And then they want the world to start saying, like the world says about Russia's air defense. I mean, everybody, anybody who knows anything about military hardware or understands or reads about military clashes, everybody will say, yeah, well, how the Russian air defense system is, they got the best, right? China wants people to start saying, man, that Chinese stuff, the Pakistanis used it. You see what the hell the Iranians did to the doggone Israelis? They shot every damn thing they got down. So that's why I say I suspect China is going to try to be first in line. Nobody even knows. We know S-400. We know Patriot or David Sling and all this kind of crap. We know that doesn't work, but we know that. But we don't even know the numbers. What is the Chinese? They want everybody to say, yes, the Chinese, Wang 10-4 or whatever, right? They want, in the same way that people say Patriot, which is often critical now, or S-400, which is often, wow, that freaking S-400 is no joke, right? They want everyone to know the name of their stuff. My bet, as I drink my smoothie, my bet is that China is going to go out of their way. And yes, I know it looks gross, but it has bananas and blueberries and kale in it. And of course, my protein and stuff like that. So yes, it looks gross, probably because it is gross. But don't necessarily taste all that great either. But it's supposed to do something for me. Who the hell knows? I don't know. It's probably killing me. They'll probably find out that people who drank smoothies died like 10 years early for all I know. You know, yes, boy, Garland would have been doing great if he hadn't drank all of those smoothies that were supposed to keep him healthy. Took him out early. So it is what it is. I'm giving it a shot. But let me continue. So that's my thoughts. Meanwhile, I do think while Iran is being obstinate, they're saying we don't want to talk. They have something that has been established here that has to be taken into consideration. It's one thing when you threaten to kick somebody's butt and you got the upper hand and they're concerned. I mean, you know, they're concerned that they'll get beat up. Yeah, Ron, you better do what we want or else. Okay. Ron, things a little different now. You sent your, I always say the U.S. is an organ grinder, and the U.S. is an organ grinder, and Israel is the monkey, right? You sent your monkey after them, and your monkey got battered pretty. They got their ears boxed in. You sent Israel after them. Ha ha ha. Okay, Iran, you don't want to listen to us. Israel, hey, here boy, sick them. I mean, treat Israelis. They're like, oh, they'll do anything. They treat them like dogs. They really do. Yes, treat Israel like dogs, but yeah, you sick them, boy. Go get them. Israel ran over there and they got the damn ears boxed. They got smacked, kicked, beaten, spit on, urinated on, and set on fire and thrown out the door. They fed every missile that you could find. As the old says, the saying that they operate over till the Fatah lady sings. And the Fatah missiles were raining down on those bastards in Israel like a thunderstorm. Their day was not good. They didn't have a good day. And Iran made their point. You can get some punches in. We'll be a little stronger next time, so it'll be harder for you to get punches in. And what Iran has said is we didn't even use the good stuff on you. Yeah, we threw a hypersonic missile over, but it was early. We were saving our stuff for the U.S. So we threw some old missiles at you, which knocked the hell out of you. Every now and then we gave you 1 or 2 hypersonic missiles just to let you know. Just as a reminder, if we really wanted to, we could send a salvo of hypersonic missiles and every one of them would hit. You couldn't even stop one of them. So we'll give you a little brush off. We'll dust you up a little bit. We'll hurt you a bit, but always know that if we want to do more, we could. We could. We're playing with you. We're toying with the monkey because we're waiting on the organ grinder to get here. They made it clear. The U.S. is coming in. We know they're coming in. So we're going to toy with your monkey. When you get here, organ grinder, that's when it's going to get real. You think we're doing everything we can do? Oh, no. When you come in, that's when it gets real. And one of the ways that it got real, and the Iranians saw it, right? They saw that the U.S. empire has a glass jaw in its economics. When the Iranians said, we're thinking about closing the Straits of Hormuz, where 20 to 25% of all, somewhere between 20 and 30%, I guess it probably changes from day to day, of all international oil, of all oil in the world, goes right through there. And a lot of gas too, I might add. So at that point, apparently the U.S. crapped themselves. Once Iran said we may close the Straits of Hormuz, that's when you saw Trump et al. Go, oh, man, what, perhaps in hindsight, we were a little hasty with this whole we hate the Iranian stuff. Perhaps we can get a deal here. We'll fly over, we'll fake bomb, you fake bomb, everybody fake bombs. We're going about our business. You don't have to close the Straits of Hormuz. Nobody has to get crazy here closing Straits of Hormuzes and things like that. No. Okay, things got a little, we had a little bit of a disagreement, but let's not close the Straits of Hormuz. Why? I'll tell you why. And that is the Achilles heel. That is the glass jaw of the U.S. empire. And Iran has shown you got glass jaw, and we know what it is. Iran knows, I don't care what the U.S. does. All Iran has to do is, you better do what we want. We'll attack you. We'll punch you. We'll beat you. We'll stomp you. And all Israel has to say is, Straits of Hormuz. Don't forget those words. You can threaten us. You can do what you want. 3 words. Straits of Hormuz. You do anything dumb, you do anything stupid, you can talk trash all you want to. You can sit over there and you can, humor your monkey. You can sit over there and you can propagandize your people to, oh, I'm threatening Iran. We'll do them in. We'll blow them up. You can do all that you want to. You come in this house, we're closing Straits of Hormuz. And I think we all know what that means, don't we? Right? They have a trump card. No pun intended. Why is that? 2 reasons. Number one, numero uno, the U.S. economy is very, very brittle. It is, teetering on collapse. Most people don't know our economy. I mean, we're up to our ears in debt. The economic system that we're using, which is neoliberalism, it works well. I'm not going to say it don't work. It works well. That's the problem. Because what it does is it extracts money from the working class people. It extracts natural resources from other countries at a cheap rate. It uses devious and evil reasons. And what does it do? It impoverishes the working class worldwide. Now, you can get away with that until the working class starts hurting, but so bad. So here's what they know. You close down the Straits of Hormuz, day 1. Day 2, the price of gas goes through the roof. Day 3, the people who are paying that price of gas go through the roof. And you don't want to be around on day 4. Americans, if they wake up and they say, okay, the U.S. bombed Iran. Oh, great. Iran's closed the Straits of Hormuz. What does that mean? You'll find out when you go to the gas station. I think I'll go get some gas. How much is it for a tank of gas from my little Toyota Yaris or something? Somebody that's driving a tiny little, I don't know, Ford something or other, a car that's the size of a bicycle, right? Little teeny car. Hey, how much will it cost? $150 to fill that. $150? Yep, $150. But I got a Corolla, a Yaris, something like that. Yep, good thing you don't have a full-size car. It'd be $350. Why? Well, gas is now $17.85 a gallon. And then you leave the gas station, you head to the grocery store. I think I'll get a pack of bananas. How much are these bananas? I paid $2.74 for them yesterday. Oh, they're $21.08. I want some peanut butter to go on my bananas. Oh, yeah, here you go. Jar of peanut butter, $44. There you go. Give me $100. You got peanut butter and bananas. What a great snack. Healthy. What do you think? At that point, out come the pitchforks. And that's it. People are going to go ape shit. There's no way Americans are going to sit around and allow that to happen without going berserk. And ultimately, because the Americans, they're kind of selfish. And the pain is what will get them. They can't take pain. The ruling elite, when the Iranians said, we're thinking about closing the Straits of Hormuz, the U.S. empire backed off because they knew, first of all, as I said, our economy's weak. What does that mean? What does it mean if your immune system's weak? Your immune system is weak. That means it can't take a lot. That means you have to be very, very careful, because if your immune system weak, that means if you get something that a person with a strong immune system could easily survive, your life could be threatened. Your health could be severely compromised, right? If you're weak, you can't take much of a hit. See where I'm going? Our economy is broken as far as the working class is concerned. It's extremely fragile. And all it might take is one more straw to break this camel's back. So it might not be that the Straits of Hormuz are closed and then the price of gas goes up to $17 an hour, and then $17 a gallon. Then there's some kind of resolution. Then it comes back down to 3 and everything's good. No, it could be that if even a temporary spike like that would be, as they say, would punch a hole below the waterline. That sometimes with an economy, it only takes one thing to topple it. And once it starts toppling, that it will collapse. And that even if you bring the gas prices back down, what happens if people are doing a run on the banks? Let me tell you what happens in America if they do a run on a bank. You're going to get a big surprise, because the banks don't have enough liquidity to cover it. None of these banks do. For it, basically, what a bank, if you understand banks, let me give you an example. A bank, if I'm not mistaken, I think it used to be 20 to 1, 10 to 1, and now it's 20 to 1. In other words, if a bank has a dollar, they can lend 20. If a bank has $1 billion, that means they can do loans of up to $20 billion, which means they can't cover that. Right. So they take in $1 billion in savings and checking. You put in $1 billion, boom, boom, boom. And they got $20 billion out in loans. And then they compromise the $1 billion. So you give them $1 billion, they're supposed to hold that. Oh no, they use it for speculation and buying and blah, blah, blah. Right. So now realistically, just as a number, there's $1 billion, me and you and all of us together, our savings in bank is $1 billion. That bank doesn't have $250 million in it. If we all come at the same time and say we all want our money, they can't do it. They can only give us 25% of it. I know what you're saying. FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, that was created under FDR during the FDR's New Deal, right? Well, that's fine because I'll just get my money back from the federal government. Here's the problem. The federal government only has, a very, very small amount in the FDIC. So there's, let's say $3 trillion in savings in banks, just as a number. And the FDIC's got like $200 billion. So the first 200 billion, the FDIC say, here's your money. After that, the FDIC they don't have enough money to cover it all. It's there. The FDIC guarantee is there to give people the idea that, hey, I don't have to worry about my money. So I don't have to do a run on the banks. One of the things that wiped our economy out in 1929 and 1930 was a run on the banks. Everybody went to the banks and say, I want my money out of the bank. Guess what? The bank doesn't have any money anymore and the bank collapses. Now, if they did it, because the laws are changed, the banks would collapse before people got their money out because the bank wouldn't have nearly enough to give everybody their money out. So people really would freak out. They'd start running to the banks. I want my money. I want my money. And the banks would say, we can't give it to you. The banks would freeze it. There's instances now where banks are saying you can only take so much out. So the banks would freeze it and say nobody can get their money out. That's what the government would do. They would freeze it and people would do a run on the banks and they'd say, nah, you can't take more than $1,000 out at a time or something like that. They'd have to. They'd have no choice or all of our banking system would collapse. Here's my point with all of that. Oh, by the way, here's a game the banks play. Here's what I'm going to do. And this is how bad it is. This is how bad it is. They can loan 20 to 1. For what they have. They got $1 billion, they can loan out 20 billion, right? So here's what the bank does. Hey, Garland, you want to start up a new company, don't you? Yeah. We'll loan you $1 billion. Okay. There's one thing you got to do. What? You got to make sure you keep it in our bank. Sure, no problem. You're gonna loan me $1 billion. I'll keep it in your bank. Now your bank is giving me $1 billion for my company, right? You're loaning me $1 billion. So you say, okay, Garland, the loan is executed on July 1st, and you'll have $1 billion in your account. Fine. Your bank is transferring $1 billion into my account from your bank. You're giving me that $1 billion in a loan. Great. July 1st, the bank takes the money and puts it in my account. So they lent me the money. But why did they say I have to keep it in their bank? I can't. They're going to lend me the money as long as I keep it in their bank. Because they can loan 20 to 1. So now what does the bank say? On July 1st, they take $1 billion and they loan it to me. And you know what they say? Hey, look, Garland just deposited another $1 billion. We can loan out 20 to 1. We'll loan out 20 billion on that. So they're cooking the books so that they put their own money in an account from a loan, and then they claim they got new money in an account and they loan out 20 to 1 against this. And you wonder why the system's collapsing. And you wonder why, if the Straits of Hormuz closes and everything goes bad and our economy starts to tip over, it won't be able to right itself back up. It's top heavy. If it falls over, it won't be able to right itself. So not only is it they're afraid of this closing the Straits of Hormuz, because, let's face it, how's that going to work as far as the oil futures speculator, these speculators that also bought derivatives, credit default swaps. Now you got all of these people saying, oh, I lost money on this and I bought insurance on that. Okay, AIG or whoever, pay off. I lost, and trillions of dollars have been lost. Who you think AIG can pay up? What do you have? You have the same thing in 2008 on steroids, much worse. So my point being this: Iran has an economic nuke. Iran can light a fire. I could put it like this: our economy is dry tinder. The only thing it needs is a spark. Whoosh, it'll go up. Our banking system is garbage. It's just a criminal scam. The bankers are scamming us all. They're making fake money. But if somebody throws a match on that dry tinder, whoosh, and what would that match be? Why do you think Trump panicked when they said, "Hey, we might close the Straits of Hormuz"? Trump panicked. Why? Because they know good and damn well that the derivatives market, which is measured in the quadrillions of dollars, would collapse. And the entire Western capital system along with it, right down the drain. And then the people in America would say, why is it that my dollar is now, it takes me $7,000 to get the value of $1 yesterday? And at that point, the pitchforks come out. And at that point, this whole game starts to fall apart. And might I ask this? If the dollar's worthless, how do you fund the war machine? If the dollar's worthless, how do you fund the empire? So my point is this: they got a problem because I think Iran knows it now. And Iran saw that as soon as they said the Straits of Hormuz, that everybody on Wall Street pooped themselves immediately. And Iran now knows you come after them. Okay, we're going to attack you. Straits of Hormuz. That's all we got to say. We're walking out and leaving it. Straight to Hormuz. That game you want to play, they got an economic nuke. So my point being is, Iran, after proving that their missiles are accurate, incredibly powerful, after still showing that they have some capabilities that they haven't been fully using, militarily, they've demonstrated their worth, so it's going to be hard to make demands and push them around. Additionally, I would argue that this Straits of Hormuz thing has also let Iran know that they got a lot of power to play. So it's just not going to be easy for the U.S. to push Iran around in the way that they did, or even attempt to, because Iran has military and economic cards to play that the U.S. doesn't necessarily have a counter for. All right, let's continue. Ukraine, before we go. One of the other things that we've seen here, I don't know if you've been following it, but there's a number of stories going out saying that the Theater High Altitude Air Defense Systems, the THAAD system, which is highly vaunted system like the Patriot, only better, can't hardly be worse, but this THAAD system, they don't make, the missiles are between 12 and 18 million each. These are missiles that you use to shoot down things. 12 to 18 million each. So you fire a couple missiles, you've just fired 24 to 30, to somewhere between 25 and 35 million, most likely. You just fired 2 missiles at one target. But this THAAD system apparently they've used 20% of the missiles that the US has, period. In the world, 20% of the missiles used in 10 days. And of course, Iran, if they were firing at US bases and Israeli bases and on and on and on, then I think these missiles would be gone, 2-3 weeks. 2-3 weeks, you could take that THAAD system and mothball it. There's more Patriot systems been sent to Israel, and Israel still wants to pick a fight with Iran. And Trump said maybe we'll send some back to Ukraine, but they're hard to come by, and blah blah blah. Ukraine's been put on the back burner. I think there's a reality that's coming home, and that is this one's lost. And I think part of what we're seeing is, how do we get out of this thing? And the truth is this: it's like I always say, if you say I'm going to jump off a cliff. 2 people jump off a cliff and you're in the air, and halfway down, one guy says, I think we made a mistake. I don't like the way this is going to work out. What do you think we should do? No matter what you think you should do. You have a plan? Don't matter what your plan is. You jumped off a cliff and you're in the air. You made a decision, and that decision has a definitive ending, a consequential ending. You changed your mind. Yeah, that's not going to help you. You're going to hit the rocks below and you'll be splattered and you're both going to be dead. There ain't no way out of it. Unless one of you guys got a parachute, then you're both done. And I think when the U.S. went in Ukraine, they should have called the ghost of Napoleon and Charles the 12th and Hitler and said, how do things work out when you attack Russia? And they could have told them, not good. Probably not a good idea. But they didn't do that. And they went after Russia, and they just propagandized the blue and yellow flag carrying idiots across the West that, oh, yes, we're standing up for democracy. And the Russians just did what the Russians do. And now there's no argument to be made anywhere, even amongst the bluest of the blue and yellow flag carriers, that somehow Ukraine is going to be destroyed. I mean, could there be some people delusional enough to believe that Ukraine is going to win? Sure, but they're few and far between. And Europe has neither the money nor the weaponry to provide Ukraine to keep them going for but so long. In addition to that, I think the Ukrainians are finding out the hard way that Israel is the wife and they're the side chick. And when it comes down to it, the wife gets everything that she needs, and the side chick don't. And that's all Ukraine is. I put it like this. Here's a different way to put it. This is my body. This is my hand, right? It's my body. This is the U.S. empire. Israel is my hand. I use that hand to grab, to punch, to poke, to do all kinds of things, right? This hand I can use for lots of stuff. Ukraine is a tool. Let's just say this is a screwdriver. It's actually a pin. I use this to accomplish a task. If it doesn't accomplish the task, I discard it and get another one. Ooh, it won't open. This is a Phillips screwdriver. I need a flathead. This is the wrong kind of screwdriver. I discard this one. I get another one. It is a tool that I can use, right? Wherein can't discard my hand, nor do I have any desire to. I got to keep my hand. If somebody tries to hurt my hand, I got to protect my hand. I don't want to get smashed in the door. Don't want it to get it stabbed or punched. This is my hand. Israel is the empire's hand. It's part of the empire. Ukraine is the empire's tool. And when a tool is no longer effective for the task that you need it, they used to have a job. Stanley, the right tool for the right job. Ooh, what do you need? Man, I got a screwdriver in my hand. But right now, I need a pair of pliers. Goodbye, screwdriver. Somebody find me a pair of pliers. That's what Ukraine is. And right now, the tool is not working and will not work. It'll never work to accomplish the task, which is taking out Russia, which means the tool will be discarded. The new tool, the new tactic, the new strategy is to build, to go inside and infiltrate and build drones and attack Russia or Iran or China from the inside. Now that the empire is weaker, one of the ways that it acknowledges this is weaker is using terrorist activities. If two groups are fighting, the one that's using terrorism is the weaker group every single time. The stronger group don't need to use terrorism. So the fact that as the empire weakens, it goes to terrorist attacks against Iran, against Russia, and undoubtedly they're coming against China, which there are already some. You could argue some of the attacks on the Belt and Road, bombs against Pakistan, stuff like that. You could always already argue that these are terrorist attacks. But my point being, the U.S. empire has to resort to terrorist attacks because it's weaker. And now that it is probably seems to have recognized, I ain't going to be able to finish off Russia using Ukraine. The value of Ukraine has greatly diminished. The value of that tool has diminished. The reality is coming there. And the only question is, how do we get out of this thing? Ultimately, how does it end? Now, I've heard Peter Erickson, who's great. He's our friend from Conversation Amongst the Ruins. He was on the Duran, in fact, yesterday. Good job, too. And one of the things they were talking about was when things fall apart, shall we say, for Ukraine. There will be great pressure on Trump and the Europeans to go in. We've got to go in now. We've got to intervene. The problem is this. What are their options for intervening? Are they going to send in troops? No, they don't have any troops to send in. The Europeans couldn't get together 50,000 troops between every single country together if their lives depended on it, which they don't. So they don't have troops. They don't have supplies. They don't have military hardware. If they had them, they couldn't get them there. If they got them there, they couldn't maintain the supply lines. I mean, they just get massacred. If the U.S. and the Europeans started to amass troops on the border of, say, Poland to go in, I don't know if the Russians would wait until they got in to strike them with heavy missiles, or they do it preemptively, whatever, but it wouldn't be good for those people. They'd get hit with a lot of ordnance, right? So my point being, the options for the US and the Europeans when it comes to intervention in Ukraine are, shall we say, limited, restricted, few and few and far between. So though when Ukraine starts to flounder and flop around like a fish, there will be temptations and great pressures to Trump. You got to go in. But the question is, what do you mean when you got to go in? You have to intervene. How? Are we supposed to send troops to fight Russia? Are we supposed to send have God forbid, I know, we'll have a no-fly zone. And how you going to enforce that no-fly zone? Are American, when the Russians fly around it, are the American air defense batteries going to shoot down Russian planes, immediately start World War III? Within an hour or two, we're all dead of nuclear war? Is that it? Or are you just going to say, well, you know what, if Ukraine falls, we'll swallow a suicide pill and make sure every human being dies? Is that the plan? That ain't much of a plan. So my point is, Ukraine is moving towards the mother of all debacles right now. And I think the Americans have faced a major debacle in Iran, but it hasn't completely collapsed on them yet, which they're going in that direction. But the bottom line is, Trump et al., they don't have, for those of you who are wondering what they'll do, in Ukraine, you got to ask yourself, what are their options in Ukraine? What are they going to do? Well, what can they do? Well, Garland, what are you going to do about this? Okay, what are my options? If you're a businessman and you have a problem in your business and somebody comes in and says, CEO Nixon, we have a problem, blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm going to start with? Okay, what are our options? Give me my options. What do you suggest? Give me the options, and then give me a suggestion as to which one you think we should go with and why. What are our options? And if the person says, well, we could all take a bag of money and run for the border, you know you're in deep and serious trouble at that point. You know, it's one of those kind of problems with our businesses where we're taking satchels of money running for the border now. Who do you think you are, Zelensky? But at any rate, that's it. I just don't think the U.S. empire has the options to overcome the rapidly approaching debacle in Ukraine. I think that we have fired our guns, namely Israel, at Iran, and I think Iran took it. They took the hits, and then they came out swinging, and they punched their way out of it. So I think that is already a debacle. It's already really a military defeat. The only question is, will we double down on something that is already a military defeat? It's a light military defeat, but if we double down on it and we push too hard, it could become a real bad military defeat. So the only question is, how bad a military defeat do we want to make this? It's up to us. But at any rate, so let me look and see. Do we have any? If we have any super chats, I'm going to answer them. I don't see any. I don't see any super chats. No super chats. Let me look and see. Do we have any Rumble rants? Do we have no Rumble rants? Do we have anybody on Rockfin who has it? Everybody's quiet. They are quiet today. Too quiet. Okay. Let me look on Rockfin. No, I don't see anything on Rockfin. Nope. All right. Okay. Thanks a lot, everybody. I ain't seeing anything on Rockfin. So, as I always say on the way out, if you can afford it, Patreon, PayPal, buy me a coffee, Cash App, one of those, that'd be great. If you can't, just share this on all your social media platforms. Follow me on Rumble, follow me on Rockfin, follow me on Telegram and Facebook and Instagram, stuff like that. Thanks a lot, everybody. But most importantly, share this on all your social media platforms. I'm out.